And welcome back. Joining me is Jason Turbow. Jason is a author of several baseball books, but he's also the founder of the Pandemic Baseball Book Club. And Jason, I really appreciate you coming on to talk to me about it.
Great to be here and talk to you about it, Adam, who I must say is a member of the Pandemic Baseball Book Club.
Yes, I am a member and very happy to be so. So I kind of wanted to start at the beginning. You know, your most recent book, They Bled Blue, story of the 1981 Dodgers is on it. Is, I guess, where were you in the process of all of that when the pandemic sort of shut everything down?
So I'm in a little bit of a better position than most of the club members in that my book was coming out in paperback. Mm-hmm. Its hardcover release had been a year earlier. So I was able to promote it, unfettered across the country. I actually had a couple of events set up for the paperback in conjunction with club members Brad Balukjian and Eric Nussbaum. Mm-hmm. I was going to do Q&As with them at bookstores around the Bay Area. And those got wiped off the calendar before we knew what was happening, at which point I started to wonder how we might make up for that. How can we make up this lost ground? And figured we could have these conversations anyway. Let's do it online. And Brad and Eric agreed. And suddenly we had this kind of nascent, little, very poorly designed website where we posted Zoom videos. I'd never used Zoom before. I mean, I think most of us had used Zoom before.
No, I had never just used it before.
Yeah. So we did the Q&As and they were great. We put them up there. And before long, we realized, oh my gosh, there's a whole lot of baseball authors out there who are in exactly the same boat. And why can't we do Q&As with all of them? And the ranks have been steadily building ever since. And, suddenly our logo's much better because Anika Ora, one of our authors, is also an illustrator, and she helped us out there. And we've got some website help. And now we're looking like a semi-professional organization.
Yeah, it's and what I really appreciate about the club as being on the inside of it is the sense of community that really comes about with the authors. It's a genuine sort of mutual interest in promoting each other and promoting each other's books and our work. Can you tell me where? Where it was that the mission? Was the mission to sort of expand into a whole bunch of authors, or was the idea at first just like you, Eric and Brad and maybe a couple others?
Yeah, I mean, we started small, and I think very quickly the idea of expanding with as many authors as possible came to us. The criteria being you have to have a new book out, for which the promotion has been impacted by COVID. Right. And as we started growing our ranks very quickly, and people were pretty excited about it, it became clear that we had this unexpected benefit of camaraderie, right? Several of us are on newspaper staffs. Mm-hmm. Some of us have been like myself, have been on newspaper staffs and are not right now. There's lots of camaraderie there. You lean on your colleagues in various ways. That's not there with authorship. Not to a comparable degree. When you launch a book, you've got your publishing house behind you, never as much as you want them to be, but they're behind you, and that's pretty much it. And then yourself, you make a bunch of phone calls and you promote it as best you can. But suddenly we have baseball authors, many of them very notable baseball authors, talking about each other's books in different ways and leaning on each other and tweeting in support of each other. And also speaking personally, I'm kind of amazed at how cohesive it's become in such a short time. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say we found a new promotional model because it's always a work in progress. But to have this group of individual authors, tweeting out on all their unique feeds about something I'm doing or something you're doing is a new way to leverage this. And I'm completely enamored with it, and I know many of our members are as well.
And another thing that kind of stood out to me is you're exactly right. my very, very limited experience with publishing does, this is all I know of publishing. So if you told me, if this is all I ever did and I came back a few years later, well, how was your experience in writing a baseball book? I'd say, this is great. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody's like promoting each other, but obviously having spoken to a lot of people, it wasn't always like that. It was not just in baseball publishing, but publishing in general. What is the club seems to be on it seems to be kind of unique where everybody's kind of promoting each other. Have you had any like conversation with anyone where it's like, man, like we could take this even further? You know what I mean? Like, has there been any talks about doing events or anything like that? Are you guys working on in-person things when it relaxes?
Absolutely, we are. And phase 2, which will probably be before the pandemic ends, and then phase 3 or 4, whatever phase we're at.
However many phases.
It does end. Yeah, there's lots of iterations for growth. I mean, we don't want to stay where we are, and we're working on lots of ideas to expand, including opening the ranks to baseball authors who might not have a current baseball book out, because there's lots of value to be had there in terms of diversity of viewpoints and diversity of topics. One thing that I know I'm not super comfortable with is we're entirely white, right? And that's because, as far as I know, everybody who published a baseball book this spring is white.
True.
Right. So we're thinking about ways to change that.
And that's, that's also the fact that, there's even a sense of awareness about that is really just, it's, all over the news. It's part of the current times. And I agree with you. Like, diversity in publishing is hard enough already, but having a sense of knowing that if someone were to release a book, Person of Color, knowing that there's a sort of group of comrades, a supportive group that can help, I think that would help anybody, but especially someone who already maybe doesn't have the same opportunities to get into publishing, especially in a sport. I mean, this isn't news to anybody. Even baseball itself is mostly white. And so it's an uphill mountain to climb to begin with. And I'm sure that people appreciate that. I know that I appreciate the viewpoint. But I was wondering too, like you guys just had an event recently, like a panel.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell us about that.
It's the first of what will be numerous panels. If this was called Icons and Iconoclasts, and we were able to leverage a number of our authors. We have authors who wrote books about Yogi Berra and Willie Mays. Jim Boughton, the he was the iconoclast, among the icons, and Billy Martin, and I joined it as someone who wrote a book featuring Tommy Lasorda and Fernando Valenzuela. And we got Justin McGuire from the Baseball by the Book podcast to moderate, and it was a fantastic conversation. We opened it up live to whoever wanted to join. We had 60, 70 people come along and fielded questions, and it was a really satisfying event. And we're looking forward to doing more and better, and kind of learning as we go, and making these even better in the future.
Yeah, it is. It's one thing that I have. Another thing that I've noticed about the club is there is. I mean, a very. How many authors are in the club now to this point?
Close to 25, I think.
Right, and so if you had told me, for somebody who maybe isn't into baseball or baseball books, they may not even know that 25 baseball books were released total. And we're not even, this club is not necessarily all encompassing of everybody who published a baseball book.
It's not. There's other authors I would love to have on board, but we just haven't made that connection yet.
Right, exactly. So I think what it's doing here is really drawing awareness to baseball publishing in particular, you know what I mean? And the quantity of books out there that from people, when I was going through the list, I just remember when I first joined, I said, oh yeah, I joined this book club. I think I was like number 12 or something like that. We don't have badges or anything. But like
that's a good idea. We need badges.
There you go. That one's for free. But the thing is when I told her I'm in this club and she went to the website, she's going down the list and I mean, Jared Diamond, who's you've got John Pessa, John Shea. I mean, these are really, really well-known authors. And so I wonder, is there anyone right now that you're thinking like, man, I'd love to have this guy in the club?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at baseball list bestsellers and you see a name that's not among our ranks, yeah, I'd love to have that guy in our club. I'm assuming they're men, but
that guy or girl, yeah, there you go.
That guy or girl in our club.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing we are diverse on, we have a number of women whose voices have been extremely valuable.
Yes.
And their insights are great. So we're doing what we can.
Absolutely. No, when it comes to the club, like what do you think is next? What do you see as sort of a path? Yeah, I know a lot of this it's like jazz, it's improvised, you know what I mean? But what do you see as a sort of path, and what would you like in a year from now? What would you like to see coming out of the club? What would you ultimately like the club to be known for?
I would like to amplify our voice as much as possible. And we're currently exploring content partnerships with various organizations who will remain nameless until we come to an agreement. Right. Just to expand our reach, right? If we're all trumpeting each other, if we have a much louder trumpet, then that's all the better. So far, this is not a money-making endeavor. In fact, this is a money-losing endeavor for some of us. But it's in service of selling books, right? That's our whole MO. We are a book-selling platform. We're essentially a marketing arm of everybody's individual publishing houses. And we're doing it on our own. So figuring out a way to be self-sustaining would be good. And figuring out a way to be relevant post-pandemic would be good. And like you said, live events with these authors in various cities is one possibility that we've discussed. Another is a speakers bureau, which, if you look at Sabre, for example, there's local chapters all over the country that have authors speak at them. And until now, the limiting factor has been the author must be in proximity of that club, right, or willing to foot the bill for getting to that club, because there's not any money passing back and forth here. But now with Zoom, any author can talk to anybody at any time, and having a stable of valuable voices with things to say and insights to offer is something notable.
Right. And by the way, supporting local bookshops in the process too. That's something that I noticed like day one, that was like, hey, part of the mission is supporting the local bookshops who talk about, I was in mine today, and having a hard enough time as it is.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, from day one, we wanted to support independent bookshops. Right now at the Pandemic Baseball Club website, pbbclub.com, we have our own bookshop.org storefront, and their whole MO is to support indie bookshops. We're discussing a program by which we partner with one specific indie bookshop around the country for a given either Q&A with one author or a panel discussion with multiple authors, and all the sales flow through them for that panel. And maybe even a way in which we can divert some of that to a charity, and an associated charity. And there's lots of ideas to kind of both be inspiring and make this work for everybody.
Right. It's it's having a tangible effect, not just on our sales, but also on the audience that buys them and reads them, and even those who don't. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me about the club, because this is something that I've being my only book, my book came out in late April, having that sense of sort of camaraderie. I will personally tell you, I don't know how far I would have been able to take it, even just from April to June, without having that sense of support. I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know what to do. And so I owe the club a great debt of gratitude, and you and Eric and everybody else that has helped me along the way. So I wanted to throw that appreciation in there. And also thank you for coming on and talking to me about it.
Great talking to you. Great getting to know you through the club. And here's hoping we can sell many more of your books and many more of all of our books.
All of them. That's great. Thank you so much.
All right, take care, Alan.